this one goes out to all the daily lovers out there. All right.
Yeah, hey.
Hey. You're looking nice tonight now.
You're just trying to prove that you can have a smooth voice or something after that
It's always
intro?
smooth.
I'm Graham.
I'm Ashkahn.
And a little bit of special information for you, special listeners out there.
Yeah, we have a special episode coming up at the end of this month.
Otherwise known, a.k.a. our last episode.
The ultimate episode.
Yep. And we talk a little bit more about that, why it's our final episode, in another episode, which is not our final one, called Special Announcement. So, go look for that.
Yeah.
Download it. It's a few episodes ago. And the cool thing is,
for this ultimate episode, we're going to do a 2-hour live broadcast where you get to jump in, ask us questions live on the air, and we won't have any chance to ignore them if we don't like them.
it's insane. I actually don't know anyone who's ever done a format like this before, so it should be pretty radical. I suggest
The
checking
technology,
it out.
it doesn't even exist yet. We're going to have to make it.
It is November 29th
Yep.
between 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yep.
That would be
or Pacific Daylight Time, whichever one
or
we're
Pacific
in right now.
Daylight
I
Time.
don't know.
Oh
I'm not
boy,
really sure.
Pacific Time.
Yeah.
PT. And that would be 6 to 8 Eastern Time.
Yep.
So if you're over there,
And 7 to 9 Atlantic.
and I think that's it. I think those are the only.
Is Atlantic
zones
half
we
an
have.
hour or?
I don't know. Man.
We'll put in the show notes what time it is.
If you
in
if you want to
Atlantic
know
time.
more about daylight savings time, send in a question asking us, and we'll do some research and get back to you. In the meantime, we do have a question for today, which is sort of a meta question, which I like, which is, hey fellas, just wondering how you handle people who ask questions about the float industry. Well, obviously we make fun of them and mock them relentlessly.
Yeah, what a dumb, obvious question to ask.
He says, okay, so now to submit your question to the podcast type. Oh, he got us. But we are the only float center around and are constantly having people who are thinking of getting into floating or want to add a float tank to our business. I was that guy once too, and so many people who have helped along the way, I feel it's my duty to give back. But I've spent a lot of time with people who just disappear and move on to the next thing that sparks their interest. Is this part of the duty of owning a float center and being down for the cause? I'm stressed, have a million things going on, and 24 hours is not enough time. Taking an hour to engage someone who's kicking the tires on floating but doesn't know anything about it sometimes bothers me. I know they haven't done any research if they haven't heard of Float Collective, you two guys, or Art of the Float podcast, so how much effort, time do I put into people? P.S. I'm sending virtual hugs, so hug. There's a hug for each of us.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. It's very nice. I like getting on-air hugs. Ashkahn has never given me one, so...
Yeah, well, kind of weird.
don't get your hopes up over there, buddy. So this is a good question. In a lot of ways, this exact thing is sort of the origin for us of float tank solutions.
Yeah.
Back 5 years ago, 6 years ago
10,
now.
15, 20 years ago. Yeah, whenever that was.
Century.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of time. At the risk of taking up, like, volunteering you for more time, I also think it's one of the things that makes our industry so cool.
Yeah.
Is that you can pretty much call up most float center owners around not just the country, but the world, and ask them questions and chat with them. And almost anyone will at least give you, 10, 15 minutes to talk about something that's going on.
Yeah, so in some ways it kind of is your duty, I guess. Like, I think we can all appreciate the fact that that was so helpful to us when we got up and running, right? Like, I don't know of anyone out there who didn't talk to some other person running a floating center and have that person be super open and kind and sharing and generous to, like, help them out.
Yeah.
And that, that's one of the things that's led to everything that's happening in this industry. Like, everyone being cool, good communication happening around, growth happening very quickly. All that sort of stuff is definitely bolstered by the fact that people are willing to take some time out of their day and talk to people who are interested in getting into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the term float family gets thrown around a lot, and it's not just because it's alliterative. It's because it really does feel kind of familial in this industry, and I think that's...
Like the weird uncles.
I mean, there's weird uncles in any family, including the float family, right? Like, that's us in this case, I think. Me and Ashkahn are kind of the weird float uncles, but no, it has that feeling because people, well, because I think it's a really hard business to run and there are so many questions, and it's not just like there's tons of information out there, like if you want to get into search engine optimization or Facebook marketing or something like that, where there's so many sites devoted to them. It's a little bit more of niche, strange knowledge, So as a result of the difficulty, I think that people do kind of bond over that, and having been through it and again, having gotten advice themselves, it does make sense to keep that going. Whether or not you should spend an hour with every single person who comes your way, that might be a little much, right? But the sentiment certainly is to give back to the up-and-comers and people who are entering the industry, and that's been carried on from way before we got into it. I mean, even as we were opening up, Glenn and Lee from Samadhi were lending us a ton of advice. Our person Keith, who we bought our float tanks off of, gave us, spent way more time with us telling us the ins and outs of running a float center than I thought any reasonable human being should, right? Yeah. It's So like Ashkahn said, I do think it's a little bit of your duty and responsibility. And the cool thing is it's what makes this industry so amazing. And if you talk to any owner around, any center owner, they'll say that too. They'll say how they couldn't have done it without the support of the community around them.
And the nice thing nowadays is that there just actually are a lot more resources available to people and accessible to people than there used to be. And so a way to save some time is actually just pointing people to all the things you said. That's like this podcast is us answering float tank questions every day. And there's blogs, and there's the Art of the Float podcast. And the Float Collective website, I think, is trying not to let people who are just absolutely brand new kind of in. They want people who have float centers to keep it more of a slightly more kind of informed community. So I don't know if that's the best first place to direct people to. But there's a lot of free resources online nowadays between people like us and other people in the float industry who are, I guess, taking the leap to decide to spend more of their time actually trying to create these things and turn it into something that allows them to be more full-time float tank knowledge sharers. So that's definitely something that can be leaned on and it's cool. Yeah, it's cool that exists, I guess. But
no, it is. And I was just going to say, it's so we kind of use this terminology in Float On for people who are demanding some of our time, or not even demanding, just requesting some of our time, I guess, which is the idea of hurdles. Right. It's kind of like
that's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. We use the term because what we found is we're very generous kind of giving people. And when we get into something, we're kind of in it 100%. And we've realized even with our own ideas, we have to give ourselves these little hurdles that they need to pass before we do any kind of significant time investment. And I think it's the same for people who are just calling you up and asking for an hour of your time talking about the float industry. It's like, that's great. You should definitely help people who are just getting started, but maybe, like you said, you say, hey, I'm really busy. There's these great resources out there. Have you checked out the Art of the Float podcast? Have you checked out the Daily Solutions podcast? Have you downloaded the About Float Tanks guide and research list and free resources from Float Tank Solutions? Have you, whatever it is that you feel like is from your perspective, the best resources in the float industry, direct them there and say, go through that stuff. And then give me a call or write me an email with questions that you have or things from those resources that didn't make sense. And I'm happy to talk to you about it. Or just if they're, lots of times you're the one they're calling because they live close to you and you're just the local float center. So be like, hey, go through these resources and then let's go out for coffee and chat about it. Let's meet face to face, or let's hang out in my float center. I'll give you a little tour around or something like that. And then those people who are going to drop off, we'll never go through those resources and call you for a cup of coffee, and that's just it's a hurdle. You just make people jump over this hurdle before you start investing time in it.
And it is genuinely helpful. Like if I were to call someone to just try to figure out the bare bones basics of an industry, I would love if they pointed me towards good resources. Like in some ways, that's really like a nice thing to find out from someone. Like, hey, I don't know what's going on in this industry or who to listen to or where there is information. And someone coming back and being like, here's a lot of information that you can go look at, like, is such an awesome, helpful answer to get, and saves you time from having to like look on the internet and try to like find that stuff yourself and figure out where that information is stored. So that it doesn't feel to me like you're giving someone the kind of cheap end of a relationship or something like that. Like it does feel actually very useful, and then offering to chat with them afterwards and answer more detailed questions is really nice.
And it puts you on the same footing, you know, like in a very real way, this is the reason we decided to start Float Tank Solutions and, you know, more recently just do this daily podcast is because it takes a lot of time answering the same questions that pretty much everyone who's new in an industry has. So, I mean, just directing them over to our podcast is what we do now with new people who call in and want to know more about the industry. You know, we talk to probably about, I don't know, 600 to 1,000 new people a month who are getting into the industry. And we're very willing to take that time. We have whole float tank experts whose job it is to talk to new people getting in and direct them to good resources. So, I mean, definitely as a quick way to kind of push those people off, feel free to send them our way. Like it's why we exist. And again, like the podcast is a really nice one. We've tried purposefully to answer the most common questions that people do have about the float industry, just so we don't have to spend one-on-one time answering them for every individual person. And that's great. It's an awesome way to get people into it. And like I mentioned earlier, then when you do go out to coffee, you'll have this common language. They'll understand what's going on. It's not just like you talking down to them and saying the same thing that you've said 100 times to 100 different people. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. So
yeah, spend time with people, but do throw up hurdles. Make them do a little bit of work before you just devote your time to them. Because you're right. There are a lot of tire kickers out there who will come and you'll hear from them once. You spend an hour with them and then that's it. You almost just threw an hour of your life away for someone who's not opening a float center, you know?
But thanks. Thank you. I mean, from everybody in the industry, I think there's a great amount of gratitude for everybody else and how much time we are willing to spend helping each other.
Yeah, and it's way worth it. I mean, isn't that the kind of industry and the kind of world you just want to exist?
Yeah, isn't that kind of why you got into this industry? Because that's the experience you had. So, good work.
Yeah, keep it up.
Yeah, but you know what? Virtual hug back to you too.
Yeah, hug your way. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, you've earned it.
And if anyone else wants to out there, let me try the sentence again.
You haven't had a lot of practice, but yeah, go for it.
If anyone else out there wants hugs, go to floatanksolutions.com/podcast/hug. Yeah, there's a free hug generation machine sitting right there.
Yeah.
And if you don't see it, submit a question about where the hug machine is in the question box, and we'll try to get back to you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah. It was good. I feel nice.
Yeah. You do feel nice.
Bye, everyone.